All right, good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is April 20, 2011. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight, and hope you had a wonderful day. And wow, could that intro song be any more appropriate for tonight's show? Keep your heart open, because love will find a way. Tonight, we are going to be talking about finding our soulmate, and not just finding it, but creating our soulmate now. The website is thesoulmateguy.com, and our special guest tonight, Frank Polancic, of course, knows firsthand what it feels like to seek and find a soulmate. Of course, he used the techniques described here to meet and marry his wife, Thea. This was in 2000, and ended up writing about his experiences and teaching, doing teleconferences, speaking, interviews, etc., to teach us what we've been missing. And if you haven't read the book, like I said, that's at thesoulmateguy.com, and you will find out the very first step you must take to successfully find a soulmate, how to discover why you're a catch, the secret formula for clearing your environment of items from past relationships that can instantly transform your life within 24 hours, and much, much more. I got to say, I have taken the Soulmate Challenge. I'm doing the first step this week, so I guess I'll report back and see how it goes. All sorts of it takes work, though. It's almost like SMA. It's instead of AA, it's Soulmates Anonymous. And I think there's a few more than 12 steps. And, it's not as simple as reading a book, but as anything, it's as much effort as you put into it. And, of course, Chapter 1, you'll learn how to open your heart, and, of course, measuring your progress, some of the work like writing your romantic resume, clearing your environment, appreciation and closure, dating, and all sorts of wonderful things. And you know what sets Frank apart from all of the rest, dating tips or advice and things you find online? Well, number one is results. Number two, he gives you practical solutions, things that we can be doing that really nobody else has thought to bring up, or maybe they have, and I'm not really sure why we're not getting it, but I've really never seen such a well-put-together book. It's a workbook as well. Like I said, it takes work, and lots of wonderful feedback and success stories, so we're going to learn all about it here tonight, so stay tuned. We will be right back with Frank Polancic here on Truth Brigade Radio. All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us here tonight, Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. If you would like to join us for the text chat tonight, that's over at TruthBrigade.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525. That's 402-AFR-2525. Our special guest tonight, Frank Polancic, out of Chicago, also known as the Soulmate Guy. You can find his website and the book at thesoulmateguy.com. So glad to have you here tonight, Frank. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Christie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being here. Been looking forward to this, and from the feedback I got from the listeners, I am not the only one.
Good.
I guess there's a lot of us that you described, of course, in the introduction to your book. So, woohoo, you have a classroom full tonight.
Oh, great.
All right. Well, I'd like to hear a little bit about your path and how you went from real estate to teaching people how to find and create their soulmates.
Well, I started doing. It's interesting because I had gone so long without having my soulmate that I, really when I finally found my soulmate, I just wanted to share this work. So I had taken a personal growth and development course, and it was about 6.5 months long. And what happened was, when I got into the course, I thought, well, heck, okay, I want to, increase my productivity. I want to increase my creativity. I want to do X. I want to do Y. And I said, and I want to find my soulmate, right? So, literally, I go through the entire program, and less than 2 weeks out, I still didn't have my soulmate. And in the last 2 weeks, most of the work happened. And on the final day of the course, I met my wife, Thea. And, I've been with her ever since. And so when, that was I think it was about 1995, 96 that I originally heard the term soulmate, because I was playing pool with a friend at a local bar, and I was like, God, I would really love to have a soulmate. Now, there's a cool thing. And so this is, fast forward to 2000, I do that personal growth and development course, and then right in 2000, I found her, and after I met her and I got to know her and explore who she was and explore myself in the relationship and, really get to find out who I was in relationship, because, for myself, I hadn't really been with anybody for longer than 2 or 3 months. I mean, that was the extent of my relationships, very short-term relationships. I've been with my wife 10 years now, going in the 11th year, and I still can't believe that someone like me actually attracted someone for a lifetime, which is amazing, which is also a testament of you guys listening here tonight, that even if you are a short-termer, you can still create the long-term relationship that you want. So once, my wife noticed, she knew that I was on a path, right? And so she liked to hear how I, quote, created her, because I had her on my radar, even though I didn't know it was her, right? I had her on my radar in who I was as a person, in my being. And she said, you enjoy sharing how you met me. And she said, well, why don't you write a workshop and invite people to come to it? So I invited people. I wrote the workshop, and I remember inviting people, but all of a sudden, I kind of remember sending out some emails and stuff. But all of a sudden, I had a room full of people on a Wednesday night, and I'm giving this seminar to people that want to find their soulmate, and they're taking these suggestions, and they're doing the work, and they're digging their heels in, getting to the steps that it's really actually going to take to cause the right one to come to them. And then I started seeing success stories, and after a short period of time, I wrote the book. So the book itself is, or the process, I call it, really is about 6 to 10 years of personal growth and development experience, and it's not just the aspect of finding a soulmate that you'll benefit from, that people benefit from, reading the process. All kinds of other stuff comes out of it too. So I just finally kind of found myself in that, if you'd asked me after I found my wife, what my life was going to look like after I found her and what I'd be doing, I just said, you're crazy. There's no way that I'm a relationship specialist or expert. There's no way I'm the soulmate guy. I help people find relationship, find the love of their life and get married and live their lives happily together. It was this was not something I chose to do. It was kind of chosen for me. So.
And you just needed your soulmate to help you, push you in the right direction.
Exactly. That's one of the benefits of having a soulmate.
You had no idea, 11, 12 years ago, you were going to be teaching millions of others how to create their soulmate.
No idea, no clue. In fact, I had, I'm a lyricist and a songwriter as a creative expression, and I've done improv at Second City. I've done a lot of interesting personal growth and development tools. Even I've done feng shui. All that stuff kind of is rolled into the process that I use. It was not something by design for me. It was completely, the work that I do is by design, but what I I couldn't have planned what I was going to do.
It's a trial and error.
Trial and error, which is like finding a soulmate.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, as I mentioned in the intro, it's kind of, I haven't read the whole book yet, and obviously done the exercises because I just got it, but I skimmed through most of it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I've watched all of your videos, read all your blogs, and I actually started making some of these changes before I got your book. So, I kind of mentioned it's like AA, but maybe it should be Soulmates Anonymous, 12-step thing, but maybe there's a few more than 12 steps. So it requires work, essentially, and inner work. It's not something where I think the rest of us are looking out there instead of in here, right?
It's an inside job, It's really, finding a soulmate requires some soul searching. And it's, but here's the thing. As soon as you find, like in my work, I have 28 steps. I've taken something that's very complicated and made it very simple. And I know 28 steps sounds like a lot of steps, but some of these things are just so easy you wouldn't believe it. And I say that really there's only about 8 hours work in attracting your soulmate, involved key work that's used in attracting your soulmate. Most people, when they get to this point of when they actually choose or commit to finding a soulmate, there isn't much left to do because they're in their late 20s, their early 30s, 40s, 50s. There's a threshold where you commit to finding somebody so that you've already done most of the work itself. That's the crazy thing about it, is you've already done it. Now what my work does, it helps you have the insights to tweak what you've done in the past and how to create your own path on the person that you're going to meet and marry and live happily ever after with.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Now, there's some lines of thought that there's only one soulmate, and if you screw it up, you lost your chances, and you're forever going to be a lonely old bitter hag. And then, of course, there's lines of thoughts where there are much more soulmates. So what are your views on that?
Well, this planet, we are inhabited with 6 billion people. Now, if you can tell me that there's only one soulmate on this planet for one person, I'd say it's ridiculous. You can have multiple soulmates. You can have what my commitment is that you find the right soulmate and commit to a lifetime for them. You commit to getting it, starting the relationship, getting engaged, getting married, living out your path together, your higher path together. So, yeah, listen, I've had other soulmates, and there were times when I thought, gosh, am I ever going to get another crack at this, right? Mm-hmm. And that's got to be, I know it from my own experience, that's probably one of the worst fears in life, is that you're not actually going to find someone that you're going to live your path together and fulfill your higher self, right? And it's just a complete myth. It's a conversation that people start because they're complaining about something and they're getting something out of the complaint. They're getting something out of, oh, poor me, They're getting juice out of their own unfulfilled expectation instead of having that breakthrough. That's where life occurs. During the breakdown, before the breakdown. Before the breakthrough, there's a breakdown. Jerry Maguire, well put in that movie, Jerry Maguire. Breakdown, breakthrough. Mm-hmm. You got to get through the breakdown, and once you get through the breakdown, there's a breakthrough.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very well said. And, I have learned, I guess we're kind of doing ourselves an injustice by inviting that fear into our lives. Oh, I screwed up 10 years ago and I'm never going to be that happy again, or whatever it is that we tell ourselves, or that there's only one, and look at all of our relationships as failures. But in actuality, aren't they really all successes? I mean, aren't they only failures if we choose to not learn from that experience? Well,
that's up to the individual whether they want to treat it as a success or a failure. I mean, you could say that every person you've gone out with leading up to the moment you find your soulmate was a culmination which actually helped you find your soulmate, right? Like all the people you've dated, loved, and not loved, it's the person you end up meeting in the long run, right? So I always say finding a soulmate is like really it's a moving target. And most people have it that, finding a soulmate's a fixed target that you have to hit. It's actually a moving target because you grow, and as you're creating, your soulmate is based on all the people. It is really, and this is interesting. It's where you are. It's all the people you've dated in the past. It's all the people you've loved, you've not loved. It's people say, well, you marry your mother or your father. Well, guess what? You marry your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, all your significant relationships, and any of the stuff that, I kid people. I say, I married my older brother. He's a year and a half older than me, and he and I used to pal around a lot as kids, and I found that in my wife. We just have fun palling around together. I mean, we don't have to say anything for hours, and then we'll share something, and then we break into a profound conversation, just like I did with my brother, So so what was your question again, Christie?
Well, I was just, I guess I just was kind of getting to the point where I think that maybe we do ourselves an injustice with those views. Looking at past relationships, we can call them failures as, failure. Oh, I don't want to do it again. I always mess up, or I'm not doing it right, or every relationship is a failure, when in actuality, maybe they all were our soulmates or brought to us exactly what we needed at that time. It's the way we choose to think about it. Was it really a failure or a success? So,
and the other thing that you want to remember is that when we get going as children and as young adults and as adults, our view or picture of what a soulmate is changes over time. Like when you're in high school or when you're in grade school, your vision of a soulmate's different. And when you're in high school, it's different. When you're in college, it's different. When you're out of a structured environment, it's different. So that's one of the things I say about hitting a moving target, is because your images of what a soulmate are change, right? So in a roundabout way, yes, all of our past experiences make up what we're about to attract in a soulmate. But the key thing is, if there's something incomplete, and when I say incomplete, something not finished with the people you've previously dated, you want to have closure to that. And when you get closure with that, then something powerful opens up. You have a new beginning. You get to start from scratch. And when I say closure, a lot of people get in relationships that they're incomplete with a mother or a father. And when I say incomplete, I say, they still have something to tell them that they're not communicating, right? Or when they get into a romantic relationship, they're mad at the other person because they cheated on them. Let's just use the cheating thing, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. They're mad at they're mad at their high school boyfriend because he cheated on her, right? But the reality is, and then when they found out that the relationship ended, and they didn't actually say what there was to say for them, right? They didn't actually have an opportunity to forgive them, or hear that other person's side, or say what they wanted to say gracefully, right? And so that's one form of closure that people can give is, hey, you know what? The guy cheated on me. I'm going to forgive him, or I want to hear what he has to say, or there's something left unsaid. And, at one of my workshops, live workshops, I had somebody stand up and say, hey, my father cheated on my mother. No, my husband cheated on me over and over, and I have 4 kids, and I can't stand him. Are you telling me to get closure with him? I said, well, hold on a second. I said, well, he may not be the one to get closure with. I said, did your mother or father cheat on each other? And she said, yes, my mother cheated on my father, and I hated her for it. And I said, well, there's the person you want to get closure with, And so it's like, we have so many pieces of unfinished business that we bring around, or some people call it baggage, that we bring into the next relationship. And the more you can be complete with your past relationships, the better your relationship is with your soulmate, because you're on a clean slate and you're creating it.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating it versus living it by default.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked with so many people, in fact, even on the show here, where one gentleman was, I guess, so angry that somebody had cheated on him from high school, how many years or decades ago, that he was just afraid to go meet anyone else because he just thought that all women cheat, and the next one is going to cheat on him, and he doesn't want to give his heart away because somebody's going to crush it again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we need to just kind of empty out that baggage, right?
Exactly. And, the first part of the process that I use is really just cleaning up the past and finishing some unfinished business. And I do that through conversations with people, coaching people to have those crucial conversations with people, and also getting rid of objects from past relationships, because we really do keep a lot of stuff in our environment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold that right there, Frank. It is that time, but we're going to be right back after this short break. Stay tuned, everyone. Frank Polancic, thesoulmateguy.com. Stay tuned. Truth Brigade. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with the Soulmate Guy tonight. Frank Polancic, thesoulmateguy.com is the website. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525. If you'd like to join us on the text chat, that's over at truthbrigade.com. Frank, cleaning out our closet. I guess that's one of our first steps, huh?
That's one of them, yeah.
And how do we do that? I mean, I guess we all have our own definition of cleaning out our closet, but I mean, does that mean we just get rid of everything that has to do with any of our past relationships?
Well, I always say start with the objects in your environment that bring you negativity. If there's an emotional charge to it and it's not positive, then you really want to look at it in many different ways and say, does this object bring me closer to my soulmate, or does it distance me from them? And so usually if it doesn't bring you energy, you want to get rid of it. And you also want to listen. I think, you want to listen for the conversation behind the object. When I say that, like when you pick up an object, let's say, for instance, you, Christie, have an object, say, from high school, from a high school boyfriend, and it's a T-shirt or something, right? Like a T-shirt. And you're going through your closet, and you look at this shirt, and you're like, man, I've had that for 15 years or 20 years. And you look at it, and you go, I'm holding on to. I'll just say what the subtext of what might be going on through your mind is. Wow, I'm holding on to this from my high school boyfriend. What am I holding on to this? Why am I still holding on to this? And you may say, well, gosh, because I never, ever thought I'd find a love as true as him, right? So now that you have this object in your environment that says, gosh, I'll never find someone as true love as him, right? Mm-hmm. It limits your opportunity out there. So when you distinguish the conversation and let it go, then you allow the universe to bring you someone like him or better. So through objects, see, whatever's going on in your environment is displayed in your whatever's going on in your consciousness is displayed in your environment. So whatever going on upstairs in your head is right in your environment. And if I've done so many consultations, in fact, I've seen, here's the cool thing about environments is not just from a feng shui perspective have I seen environments. I've also been coached through an incredible coach on objects, and I've also had the opportunity because of selling real estate for 15 years. I picked up on a lot of feng shui, and I saw thousands and thousands of homes. So I knew when I can tell by walking into someone's place whether they were married, single, divorced, just by looking at their objects. Whether they were dating someone, whether they weren't. So it's if I came into your place and looked at your place, we could walk through your place, and I could tell you exactly the items you're holding on to. And you have to distinguish that for yourself.
Okay, so you're saying if it's emotionally charged, even if it's positive feelings, it can be holding us back from creating our soulmate coming into our lives in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, wow. And I mean, what about, say, engagement rings or wedding rings, jewelry, precious items like that? I mean, I'm assuming those types of energies are also attached to jewelry, photos, etc.
Jewelry is a great example. And, you know, there's people that still hold on to wedding rings or even wedding dresses that is from a failed engagement, you know, and they still have it. Like, well, what do I do with it, you know? I can't throw it away. It's, you know, a $10,000 ring or it's a $3,000 dress or something. Well, that's the quickest access to doing something, is actually taking action with that, getting rid of it, or creating a new context for why you have it, you know. And you know, there are people, for instance, a coachee that I had, she had a wedding ring that was from her divorced parents, right? And that was from her mother's divorced mother. So 1, 2 generations, she's the third generation that had that ring. And essentially what the commonality was that her mother handed her a generational conversation of divorce. And she was divorced. So when she got rid of the ring, she found a phenomenal guy. Because she distinguished that, you know, it's her choice to create her own type of relationship, you know.
I didn't even think of that. So even family heirlooms that are passed down that might have come from, you know, failed relationships or whatever, those could also be holding you back, not just stuff from your personal relationships?
Yep. You attracted it. You know?
Oh, okay. Oh, goodness. So... Oh, wow. All right. So I guess having all of my jewelry stolen was a good thing?
You know, listen, if you're meant to get it back, you'll get it back. If you're meant to have it, it'll come back to you in some odd way. They'll catch the guy, and you'll get an email or you'll get a call from the police sergeant saying, "Hey, we found your jewelry." You know?
Yeah, right.
And they'll only give you like the 3 pieces you like back.
Oh my good. Okay, you know, you just triggered something and makes me realize. I mean, I remember I held on to jewelry that my mother or grandmother had given me, and you know, their husband at the time had given it to them, and they held on to it all these years. And I held on to it all those years, thinking, you know, I never really thought about it in that context. I just thought that, wow, it's a family heirloom, great. And, you know, when I was burglarized and all of my family heirlooms disappeared, I've really held a resentment towards that. Mm-hmm. And maybe I held space, like, God, I wish I still had that and things like that. I had no idea that I was not just... coveting or holding space for the items themselves because of the, you know, generational value, but that it was also, or could also, just holding space for that is limiting me because I'm, once again, attached to something in the past.
Yes. Yep. Very, very well put.
Okay.
Very well put.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm definitely going to have to check myself.
Well, here's the other thing, too, with that stuff. You want to write down what you appreciated about those objects, right? Because that's the gold. If you can come up with, you know, 20 or 30 sentences of what you appreciated, or just the core, you know, maybe 5 or 6 sentences of what you appreciated about that stuff, allows you to bring more of what you appreciate about it back into your life. You know, and then if you can distinguish what you were holding on to in that, like I'm telling you, the objects, if you just think of the object, if you listen to your intuition, the sentence will come up, and you'll go, I'm not good enough, or, you know, they're too good for me, or I can't have it forever. This can't last forever. Just the subtle conversations arrive. It's like when you let those objects breathe, they speak to you.
Okay, so not just things like, old photos or love letters or maybe even gifts from our past relationships. We also have to check our inventory on other gifts or things that, heirlooms, etc., that we're holding on to. Okay.
It's all connected, romantic and platonic.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned platonic.
Yep.
Now, are all soulmates a romantic love?
Well, no, they're not. But the one I speak about is from a romantic standpoint. This is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You can have different types of soulmates, but the ones that I talk about are the ones that you actually commit to and get married to.
Okay, but haven't we all met someone, or maybe more than one, where we did think we were going to spend the rest of our lives with them?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
And you just have to hit the restart button and start over, or recommit.
Okay, and commit. That's something that you actually have at the first part of your book, that we're actually making a contract or a commitment to ourselves to do this, and instead of a deadline, you suggest an alive line.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, the alive line kind of ferrets out whether or not you're really committed. In fact, a lot of people that do my coaching or telecourses, they get into the course and they realize that they weren't actually really committed to attracting a soulmate. They find out that they were just committed to attracting a short-term relationship or something, not consistent with finding someone, a husband or a wife, and getting married, right? So the alive line basically locks you in. You commit to a date, and it's an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, August 1st, I'll have my soulmate. So you write it down, and I have what's called a soulmate declaration, which is right in, I think it's on page 21, where you sign it, and you say, by this certain date, the universe and I'm going to attract my soulmate, and the universe is going to help me out, God or my higher power, and I'm going to have my soulmate by this date, right? And see, when you commit to something like that, then it's like if you were going to go to college, right, or any major university and get a degree, you wouldn't just say, hey, I'm going to take a semester and get my degree at some point, right? You're going to want to commit. You can't just get your degree unless you meet their criteria, like have a 4-year plan, right, or whatever the university's plan is, right? Well, this is something that keeps you focused on being complete about it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the alive line. The date is you're gonna have your soulmate by then. And then you start doing the steps, and I tell people that the steps that I created, actually start doing them, and then the circumstances and the events happen that allow this person to come to you naturally.
Okay, all right. So I was reading, there was one gentleman, I guess, in the book that put a pretty bold alive line. What was it, like 2 months or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I mean, what is a typical time frame that you would suggest if we were going to make our commitment and start our program to finding our soulmate?
Well, I've personally seen thousands of timelines come across my eyes, my ears, and through mail. And I've seen as little as 1 week, and I've seen as far off as a year and a half or 2 years. And I've seen success stories around all of them. I've seen a person that literally committed to finding her soulmate in 5 days. 5 days later, let's just use a timeline here. Like, she started on the 1st, and then on the 5th she happened to get on online dating and attracted this person, and then in 3 months later they were engaged. So she literally met this person within her timeline, which was like 5 or 6 days, and then they got married. And, I was also, when I first wrote the book, I was on a plane coming home from Atlanta, and there was a guy reading my book on the plane. And I met him at the conference, and he knew it was me on the plane, and he came and he says, I'm going to have my soulmate by December. And I think it was maybe 2005 at the time. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking that's a year and a half off. that's a long time for a timeline. Why don't you just do it, get it done now? And why don't you just say like 6 months or something? Because mine was 6 months. It's all individual specific. So you create the date for yourself, regardless of who you are. If it's 5 days or 2 years, and just let it happen. So my point is, I got an email from him, August, right? August the following year, and he said, "Hey Frank, I want to invite you to my wedding. I'm getting married December 21st in India." I was completely blown away. I'm like, and that's where, at me as becoming the soulmate guy, at first I was kind of, like I said, why don't you just do it now? But everybody has their own specific timeline, and only you can say what that is for you.
Let me ask you this. According to all the feedback you've received, do you have a percentage of success stories?
Well, it's 100% if you follow the process.
Wow.
If you follow the process to a T, it's 100%. It's I'm not saying it's pretty foolproof.
Okay. Dang, I like those odds. 100%. You can't go wrong. But it is that time, Frank, so hold that right there. We're going to be right back after this short break. Stay tuned. How to Meet Your Soulmate with Frank Polancic here on Truth Brigade Radio. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with our special guest tonight, Frank Polancic, learning how to find our soulmate now. And we left off talking on timelines, and let me ask you this.
Yes.
I started the process, and I I had a date in mind or a certain time frame in mind, but when I wrote it down, I wrote a different month. I don't know. I guess people talk about automatic writing or this and that. Should I trust what I wrote down, or should I go with a figure that I had in my mind?
I would trust what you wrote down. Sometimes your head will get in the way. What I find is people try, you want to just have it be an afterthought. Like mine was 6.5 months. You want it to have it not be significant, right? I find that some people will try to put it on a birthday or like their birth. I want it by my birthday, or I want it by New Year's Eve, or I want it by Christmas, or 4th of July. It's like you're setting yourself up for upset, because you're putting something on top of it already being a special day in itself, right? So you just listen to your intuition, keep your head out of it, and just intuitively put down what your heart's telling you. What was your date?
Okay. Well, mine was pretty bold. I was thinking 7 weeks because 7 is my favorite number, and there's nothing really going on at that time. So I was intending June, but I wrote July, and they have the same 2 first letters, so it could have been an honest mistake.
What was your first? So your first thing was 7 weeks?
Yes.
All right, so 7 times 7,
sounded like
49
a nice
days.
Time.
49 days from today. That's your timeline.
All right.
Yeah.
So even though I wrote down July.
Yeah, if your first intuition was 49 days, 7 weeks, right? Your lucky number or whatever it is, you feel good about, right? That's the feeling aspect. See, so many people, finding a soulmate is about feeling. Your head plays into it, right? But it's really about going like on in like Luke Skywalker. You're flying without control panel. You're just flying using your intuition with blinders on, and that's how it would best be described, is to just do something you intuitively feel. Now, just the fact that you're going back and forth. Well, was it July? Was it June? You want to follow your hunches more often now, and go with your first instinct. What was that book? Not the Tipping Point. Let's keep going here because I'll think of it in a minute. Where your first hunch is your best hunch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, okay. I'm just going to stick with 7 and do the work, and we'll see what happens. You mentioned, of course, cleaning out your closet and closure. Now, you suggested that some of the closure we might need are not necessarily in past relationships. They could also be friendships, family, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do we need to think about when we're trying to do our work on the closure aspect?
Well, you just want to write down the people. Like, first of all, an easy way to start is to go just look at your past boyfriends or your past girlfriends, right? Just write them down and say, I don't. If you feel like you never want to talk to that person again and you're mad at them, that's someone that you want to talk to. If you don't get any charge from some of these, then just leave it. But it's the ones you get kind of some charge from, right? And that's that. So that's how you would get started on writing a list of people you want to get closure with. And here's the thing: there's only a few biggies, just so you know. And if you get to the big ones first, it's going to make it a priority to get with the big ones first, because when you do, it makes your life a lot easier when it comes to talking to the other people. All right. So, and the same thing with platonic relationships. There's only going to be a few. There's going to be your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, an aunt, uncle. I've had people that have been abused by, an aunt or an uncle, or a neighbor friend sexually abused. Well, hey, that is, that's going to play into what type of relationship you attract as an adult. So you want to get closure. You want to forgive that person, or you want to, have them say what they want and what they were, tell them you didn't appreciate what they did, that kind of stuff. So I'm just using those kind of extreme examples to hit home. I mean, some people hearing this are probably going to go, they're going to go, wow, I got it. What if somebody victimized even by a stranger, or maybe it is someone they know, but what if these people are unreachable? Well, you want to write a letter to the universe. You want to write a letter to yourself, say everything you possibly can say, and then email it to yourself, and then it, kind of goes to the universe and back. And then, it's funny, I wrote a letter to an aunt of mine who I was really only writing to tell her how much I appreciated her and her life with her soulmate, Carl and Rose, because I saw them as a kid. Their whole life, they were married for like 60 years. And in my mind, I thought that was phenomenal. I'm like, so I wrote her a letter after she died. I'm like, Rose, you were the most awesome idea of a relationship that I have. You and Uncle Carl were just best friends, buddies, partners, totally giving of yourselves to each other. And they both lived in their late 80s, 90s. And so a few days later, I write that letter, right? A few days later, I don't send it to anybody because there's no address to send it to anymore. She's gone. I get a check in the mail as an inheritance, and that was the last thing I was thinking about getting. I got a check from her estate. So it's like you just amazing. That kind of closure is invaluable. Absolutely. That is beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us, Frank. But it is that time. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Truth Brigade Welcome Radio. Back. Top of the second hour here tonight with Frank Polancic here on Truth Brigade Radio. And Frank, we just have a few short minutes this segment. That was beautiful, by the way, but please continue. Oh, and while we were on the break, little surprise for you. Let's see here. Your timeline, your live line is June 8th. That's 49 days from now. Oh, okay. Sounds good. Yeah, you want to commit to that. I'm committed. June 8th. All right. Awesome. So where were we? You were telling us about the letter you wrote to your aunt, who was dead, and then, you were kind of getting closure there. Yeah, so, platonic and past and romantic relationships, that's going to loosen, when you start to get closure with those people, that's going to really take a lot of weight off your shoulders, number one, and it's going to allow you to move forward. A lot of people, like I said, bring those relationships into their new relationship, and then they think it's their possible soulmate when they encounter problems. Like, it's this, he's doing this again, or he's doing that, he's doing the same thing my past boyfriend did. It really is just an illusion. It's the accumulation of all the things you were annoyed with and all those other people. So this person, like attracts like, which we're going to get into it sooner or later here about the law of attraction. So, so the bottom line is closure with your past relationships, platonic and romantic. I give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that, regardless of how much you don't want to talk to these people. I'm telling you, it can be as little as a 5-minute exercise that'll complete something that could attract your soulmate. And that's the neat thing about this process is I don't know which step is going to work for you, right? Well, it could just take one of those steps that does it entirely for you. Some people take more steps, some people take less steps. Now, the other thing you want to kind of come to terms with is your dating habits. And I have a whole chapter dedicated to dating habits. A lot of us are dating in a way now as adults like we're in 5th grade. It's ridiculous. In fact, internet dating...
I agree. So tell us, what are we doing wrong?
Well, think about it. Think about this. When you're a kid, I know this happened to me, like, you'd hear through Susie that Jill liked you, right? And so you go, wow, well, you tell Jill that I liked her too, all right, Susie? And the next thing you know, it's done through a third party, and then you're dating, right? I mean, you're dating. And think about internet dating. It's all done through a third party. Hello? Yeah. There's 96 million single people, and I think it's a quarter of the quarter of the dating population that's using internet dating. It's all done through a third party. So, one way to upgrade your dating habits is to kind of look at what your past dating habits have been and create new ones. And that doesn't take that long, Once you catch yourself on how you're behaving about going about dating, like, for instance, a dating habit is, not dating is a dating habit. I'm not going to date until X, or, I'm just not going to date. And you sit and wallow on a Friday and Saturday night thinking about how you'd like to be on a date, but you're so, fixed and righteous on being, hey, I'm not going to date until X happens. So that's a dating habit. Other dating habits are like, I'm going to wait to call him after the third day. That's what everybody says is, being heady about something. That's ridiculous. Call him when you feel like it, Even with my wife, I took her on a date, and 3 days later she called me, and we ended up going to the movie together. It was just so natural. It was like, we planned something 3 months in advance, and I got a little freaked out about it. I'm like, holy cow, she's asked me to go to this big ball 3 months in advance. I'm someone who only dates somebody 2 or 3 months.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Hold that right there. We're going to be right back. Truth Brigade Radio. All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. If you would like to join us for the text chat tonight, that's over at TruthBrigade.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 402-237-2525. That's 402-AFR-2525. The SoulMate guy, Frank Polancic, is joining us tonight. TheSoulMateGuy.com is the website. And Frank, if you would please continue on all of these dating habits that, we're kind of getting wrong here. But let me ask you this. You said that you met your wife, and then she called you 3 days later. Why did you wait those 3 days if that rule wasn't something we're supposed to adhere to?
Well, I think it was 3 days later. It was something like that. But I clearly had an intention to go out with her again. I really had a great time. I had talked to her before then as well. I mean, I called her on the phone, and we just talked. And then she had called me and said, hey, we talked, and then we ended up going to a movie. I think we went and saw Aaron Brockovich, I think.
But you waited for her to call you?
No. I'm pretty sure that we had talked, but she had happened to call me to do something like 3 days later.
Okay.
So, there was no strategizing going on my part. I was just like, man, this is pretty cool that I met this girl. I was committed before I met her. And that's why... that's what made the relationship easy from the start. You get committed first, and then the commitment lines up with you. The universe will send you with what you're committed to. And that's the interesting thing about the timeline is you find out whether you're really committed to finding a soulmate or not when you put a timeline to it. Because people say, oh, well, a timeline's not natural, or, oh, you should attract them on your own. Well, listen, if you're 25, 35, 45, 55, and you haven't attracted somebody yet, you need to hunker down and create a timeline for yourself, because intuitively we all have some type of timeline. We just haven't committed to it.
Okay, so that's what it takes, is making a decision.
Yeah, make the decision to commit, and the universe will support you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, okay, dating habits. I know we've all learned a lot by what we read in magazines, or say searching the internet somewhere. Or there's people like, let's say Dr. Ruth or Dr. Laura or what's his name, Tom Likas. I think it's fair to say we're a little bit misguided on that, and a lot of it could have to do with our conditioning and stuff as well, growing up. Well, this is the way our parents did it, so this is the way we're supposed to do that. So how do we kind of, I guess I'm assuming, first of all, part of your exercises is to look at our habits and be completely honest with ourselves, but how do we get to the point to where we can break that mold?
Well, if you note, with what you just said, I hear a pattern there. These people, we take a lot of advice. Literally, we look for other people's advice rather than listen to and create our own path. And the template that I use for, distinguishing your dating habits allows you to come upon the answers yourself. I don't give advice in the book. That's the miracle of the book. You intuitively tap what dating habits haven't served you up to this point, and then you wipe the slate clean, and then you start over creating new ones. And then you naturally, when you're done doing the exercise, which doesn't take long, it takes less than a half hour to do, you walk the next week, the next 3 days, you start to see new dating habits arise. You'll go out with somebody. Maybe one of your dating habits in the past was, I'm not going out with somebody I meet on the bus or I meet at a bar. Yeah. Next thing you know, you get asked out in a bar, and you go on that date right away, and it's the right person. All because you changed your dating habits.
You eat. You can't date someone that you work with.
Right. Hey, what better place to get to know somebody than at work?
Yeah, you spend most of your time there.
You know what I mean? You have to set parameters, and that's, within yourself. But so if one of your dating habits was not to date somebody at work, maybe that might be a dating habit that's been limiting you in attracting someone, because there may be somebody at work that you're just, completely attracted to.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. I'll share, as I mentioned before, I'm starting the process. I'm dedicated to this, and I guess I already have my date, and I already started cleaning out the closet, so to speak, internally and in my home. And really, you said it in the last hour, home is, it reflects, your inner reflects your outer, or vice versa, and your home really is where your heart is. So I obviously see the importance in clearing out old energy, dead energy, or whatever could be attached to objects and such. And old T-shirts or photos, love letters, things, jewelry, whatever, things like that are easy to recognize. But what about, say, even furniture, like, oh, I bought this when I was with someone, 12 years ago. Could that still be contributing to that negative energy?
Yeah, without question. Without question. I did a consultation at a woman's house, and we literally went through almost every item in her place. And believe me, it's funny, when I'm with people, and in a lot of my coaching sessions, people say, I don't have anything in my environment from somebody from the past. I said, well, okay, I believe you, and give it a week. And then they come back on the next call the next week, and they found 10 things from past relationships. They're hidden. They're just not in your view. Sometimes they're in your attic. Sometimes they're in your crawl space. They're in your basement. Whatever. So you were asking me about something. I got a little distracted.
Like furniture and items. Whether they came from the relationship or not. And in my case, Some of it did, some of it didn't. But what about things that we bought or, during that time, whether clothes or even furniture?
Yeah, they may not serve you anymore. It's kind of like when you buy a business suit in college, right? And you go out for after college, you go out for your first job, and you get something. You get a job, right? You get the job that you were appropriate for you at that time. Well, 10 years later, you probably don't want to be wearing that same suit if you want to get a raise. You want to upgrade your suit to maybe a new tailored look for yourself, or a better brand, or something that fits you better, right? And then go on the new interview at that point with a new, fresh perspective. So everything, some people still have. Some people will pick up lingerie when they're dating someone. In fact, that was the thing I was going to share, was that in this woman's place, we went through everything, and I said, well, what about this? She goes, oh, wait, that lingerie chest. I got that from a boyfriend 10 years ago. So we got rid of the lingerie chest. It's like those things are completely anchored. They're anchoring you in something from that relationship. And when you unanchor it, sometimes you don't even have to distinguish the conversation. Something just magically opens up. And, like in the process, in the book and in the workshops and the audio program and all that stuff, I just help you uncover that and go deeper and deeper. And you might get the surface. You might scratch the surface, but all it takes is one of these ideas that I share that allows you to go deeper, and it unhinges you, and you're like flying like a bullet. You're like a bullet out of a gun when it comes to attracting a soulmate. You're right on target.
So, all right, so you're saying we may have to clean out more than our closet. We may have to get rid of our entire household of furniture and clothes.
You might have to, Wow. Hey, what's wrong with starting over sometimes? I'm not saying get rid of everything. Some people do, and some people keep a lot of stuff and just get rid of select stuff. It's all up to you. The one thing I do know is that in the process, it's the first couple of weeks is like an uphill process, and then you reach the top of the roller coaster, and then it's downhill from there. So there's going to be a little bit of effort you got to put in, because you're having a breakthrough. You're having a breakdown, and you got to break through. So it may seem overwhelming to you, maybe, or people listening right now. Gosh, I can't go through all that stuff. Or, that couch I got, this leather couch my ex-boyfriend gave me, and I've had it. I just can't move it. I don't have the might to move it. Well, get your girlfriends together.
Or I don't have another couch.
Right, exactly. Or you got another couch from another boyfriend. And so, it's like, have a party, get rid of your stuff, and celebrate. Celebrate the new you. And, it's hard telling what those objects mean, but just getting rid of them is there's a real freedom behind that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so even if we think that we don't have negative energy or feelings attached to those objects, is it possible that there might be some hidden in there somewhere, or could it just be the energy of the object itself that can be creating that limitation inside? It depends, situation to situation. It's just how I listen to people. On whether or not it still has charge, or it doesn't, or it means anything, or it doesn't mean anything. And sometimes when they're reading or listening to the audio program, they'll go, "Oh yeah, this I don't need to worry about that anymore. I'm fine with it." Okay. So should we trust it if we think we're okay?
Yes. Yep.
We should.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
If a certain timeline goes by and it keeps nagging you, then you want to address it.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me it might be something I want to address. You
want to share what it is?
Well, you know what? Okay, honestly, yeah, I've actually
it's a safe space.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
About a year ago, or a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, I had a friend who suggested, actually what happened is a dog chewed up one of my shoes. And I was like, oh, bummer. Those were like my favorite, and and I had them forever. And she suggested, well, come on, you got to get rid of that old energy. And anyways, I started thinking about it and realized, wow, you're right, because I know when I bought these shoes, I was engaged, I was in a relationship, and then I thought about it further. I came home and started looking around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, almost everything I have here, almost all the big stuff, of course, came from, not necessarily from the relationship. Some of it did, but some of it I had bought during the relationship, specifically for that relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm just, I felt, even thinking about it, I felt free. She's right. I do have to get rid of all of this because, whether the energy is coming from the relationship or the object, I'm not quite sure. But I did feel that. And, then I went through some other changes and decided, I got to just start getting rid of everything slowly. And I actually started packing up 7 months ago and got rid of a bunch of stuff. And then I, anyways, going through life changes. But that's what it was. I just felt that maybe all of these things are limiting me. I mean, really everything I have is from those times. And, the truth is, it's not like I have a paycheck or anything. And so that's why I held on to it. I mean, I looked back and I'm like, wow, I've held on to these things from this state to that state to the next state, like 6 different full-blown moves. And I just felt, and the reason I did that was because I thought it would be too expensive to replace these things, wherever I ended up landing. But I did make the decision that when I move from here, I really am. I'm leaving everything behind. Most everything. Obviously, I need a few clothes on my back and such. But I figured, you know what? I could just sell everything, and then that would give me the gas money or whatever money I need to move. And it actually felt freeing just thinking about it. But it really wasn't until then where I thought about it. And then, of course, I read your book, and now I'm like, uh-oh. Do I just need to get rid of everything right now? Is that one of those crucial steps that I'm going to have to take if I'm going to, be available for my soulmate in the next 7 weeks?
Well, usually when I do a telecourse, it's usually about 6 weeks, right? So I think that, there are some people that do drastic stuff and will clean all weekend and they're done, right? But most people, it takes a little bit at a time, and then you build, and then you break through, and then you're done, right? Because it's stuff. I mean, some people have to sell their house, so that's going to take, hard telling how long that'll take, So and that's, maybe the house was from a divorce or something, and that's, if you feel inspired and you don't feel like living there, move, Most of us, our environments, if you're single, there's a couple different. So, yeah, you can get rid of it. Whatever your threshold of getting rid of stuff is, do it. Again, it's all individual. There's no set time frame. But, when you get to the right piece, like I said, it can unhinge and pull you forward. What I'm hearing you saying, too, is I'm going to kind of flip to the second half of the process, is what I hear is you need an image. Like you need an image and your environment set up that pulls you forward to where you're going versus your past. And sometimes people don't actually start to have an image until they get rid of some of the past. But you want to start to, I always say, if there were only a few objects you needed in your life, get like a great date outfit, number one. Get a great set of shoes for yourself, And I'd say this to guys: get a great outfit that you look good on a date with your soulmate, your future soulmate. Get a bed that supports who you are in a relationship. If you want to have a king size bed, get a king size bed. Get your ideal bed, and get 2 nightstands alongside of it. And
okay, I remember one of the things you said, if you have a twin bed and 1 nightstand, you're not allowing for that space. But it is that time, Frank, so we'll pick this back up when we return after this short break. Frank Polancic here on Truth Brigade Radio. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Truth Brigade on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We are learning how to find our soulmate tonight with Frank Polancic. TheSoulmateGuy.com is the website. And if you would please continue. We left off talking, making room and creating space and how maybe a twin bed with one night stand could be holding us back from what we think we really want.
Yeah, it's a couple things that are just... There's an area in Chicago that's called the Gold Coast, and there's a lot of studios and one-bedrooms here. And, I can remember for myself, having lived in a studio for several years, there's hardly, and that's, your physical space, there's hardly enough room for one person in a studio apartment. I mean, they're, 400 square feet, maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller. How on earth can you support a soulmate in your space if you're only in a studio? If you're in a studio, go on, get into a one-bedroom that'll allow you to put in, nightstands and a bed with a headboard and, some images of what a soulmate looks like to you on your walls, That's one surefire way to align your environment up with attracting a soulmate. And living in a studio sends off so many mixed messages that how do you know, like a guy, and we'll get into this a little bit in a minute about how a guy attracts a woman and how a woman attracts a man. A guy, when he'll go to a studio, he won't know whether to sit down and watch TV with you if you're living on a futon, or if sit there and have dinner with you, or make out. I mean, it's like there's so many mixed messages when you're just in one room and it's all your living space. So when you upgrade it and separate it, it helps you expand your horizons a little bit.
Okay.
So, so the bottom line is your environment. You want to set your environment up to support you in relationship, and I take you through that.
Okay. All right. Very good advice. I totally see how that can be effective. Let me ask you this. I guess one of the steps in the process is your romantic resume. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about that and why that's effective?
Well, your romantic resume is just basically a glimpse of how you are in relationships, all the good qualities you bring to a relationship. All the fun things, how you are in all of your relationships, your strong suits, the things that you're proud to share with people. I'm even, for one of your, I can hear what one of your romantic qualities is that you're just open and honest. Now, that, to me, is completely romantic. I mean, people want that. You're open. You're into personal growth and development. That would be another thing that would be on your romantic resume. You really are an advocate of personal growth and development. So in your romantic resume, you'd want to have that because then you would want to attract somebody that's into it because then your lives will be much easier. It'll flow much better when somebody else is into personal growth and development. I've seen so many relationships where they're just not. One person will be really into personal growth and growth and development, and the other one just isn't. And that can be challenging for somebody who really loves personal growth and development. So the romantic resume is a way for you to share the things that you love about yourself, just to kind of just be proud of yourself for the things that you bring to a relationship. Now, on the other hand, I have what's called an anti-mate resume,
yes.
Which is the things that are not
this is
so
looking
good.
Fun.
Yeah. So, and the thing to get about that is that you bring an anti-mate resume to your relationship, and so does the other person. And that's the areas that you want to transform in your life. If you're quiet and secluded and like your personal time and are grumpy if you don't want to be around people, maybe that's one of your anti-mate things that keep, when you go into your shell when you don't know how to communicate, right? So maybe one of the things you'll want to work on in your anti-mate resume is, gosh, I am a hermit. Maybe I don't like to go out and see people. Maybe one of the things I got to transform about myself is being around other people and being happy and joyful. Now, I'm not making it wrong that I love to be, in my house for days and just hang out. You know, I love my house. And there are days that I need to be around people and just just get everybody. I was at a seminar today and with like 500 people, and I was just so excited to be there. It was just like, it felt so good. So you want your romantic and your anti-mate resume, two sides. You take about a half hour on each of those, and there's so much discovery going on. I've had people that really don't really want to tell what great things they bring to a relationship. They're afraid to. And then I have other people that when they try to work on their romantic resume, start bringing up all the negative things they bring. It is such a discovery. It is so cool.
Okay, well, what if your anti-mate resume is longer than your romantic resume? Do we still have a chance?
I'd say you're being brutally honest with yourself. That's what I'd say. And,
okay.
Honesty and authenticity, when you bring that to a relationship, is powerful. When you can own what's on that anti-mate resume, when you can really own it, and if you're cranky, right, like let's say you get cranky when you get tired. If you can be cranky when you get tired and be powerful about sharing that, hey, listen, I'm cranky when I'm tired, so just give me some time to come down from this. Just being able to say that in a relationship is so powerful because you're setting boundaries with people that are clear-cut. Without saying anything and without sharing that, you leave the other person feeling, well, how are they going to feel today? How can I be? It's like it's uneasy ground you're setting up your relationship to be on.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. Now, all right, how do we really know we found our soulmate? You
just know when you know. You'll do anything.
What about relationships where maybe one person really knows it, believes it, feels it, but the other person isn't?
Isn't feeling it, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Well, there's a couple ways to kind of ferret that out. Number one is when you commit, like, you have to ask yourself, if you attract somebody that wasn't really committed, there's a couple things that happen. Is maybe at the time you met them, you weren't really committed to attracting someone, right? Like, maybe it was kind of a, you were attracted to them physically and you kissed and whatever, and then you end up getting in this relationship for longer term, right? And then you discovered, it just kind of unfolded at that point. So that's one way. Maybe when you met them, you weren't sure whether you were committed or not, right? Mm-hmm. And two, you may be living in the past. You may be living in the past of an old image you had of someone, and you need to upgrade your image of that other person and you being committed together. That happens to a lot of people, that one person is committed and one person isn't. And here's another remedy is that I always say that it's a woman who creates the space for the man to feel comfortable enough to commit. I mean, I can say this from personal experience. After I met my wife and I was with her for 5 months, she started saying, and she was doing the same. Literally, I met her on the last day of my personal growth and development course, and she started it, the same one. So she said, well, this is when we were sitting down for dinner one night after I'd known her for like 5 months. She goes, well, I committed to be engaged by the end of the seminar. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, and I got kind of like testy. I'm like, well, who is this guy? What do you mean? It might not be me and whatever. Well, after I got over the being wigged out about it, I was like, she's essentially telling me she loves me and she wants to marry me. 2 weeks later, I asked her to marry me. So my point is that as a woman, you create the space. It is your natural ability. I always say to women, let the bees land. You are, you are attractive. Men pursue, women attract. All right? So you keep creating the space for that guy to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, will you marry me? Let's commit. They'll commit when you're committed and you give them the space to do it. If you haven't, then, I always say take it upon yourself. And I would say that to any guy, too. You create the space for yourself, like I created the space to be committed, to actually, allow myself to ask her to marry me. Mm-hmm. So take it upon yourself to create the space and just keep working at it.
Okay. All right. Very good advice. Let me ask you this. There was a question somebody wrote in the forum. Where did it go? Here it is.
Right.
Before the show, I guess they're not able to call in live.
Yeah.
And their question, here it is. Okay. I am forging into new territory in a relationship unlike anything I have previously experienced, and in parentheses, in a good way. Now, approximately 5 months into it, I'm experiencing fear and occasional jealousy. I'm keeping it to myself, unsure if it is rational. I'm trying to be in an unconditionally loving state of mind. Are there any boundaries in such a relationship? I don't want to define or label us, but letting go of expectations is sometimes difficult. Any advice?
Yeah, get to the root of where your jealousy is coming from, because it really probably has absolutely nothing to do with this other person. It probably is a past-based conversation where you developed this jealousy tendency when you were 5 years old and somebody took one of your toys or had a toy that you didn't have and you wanted it, and then you got jealous because they had it. It's really probably, I would bet that your jealousy is not even coming from who that other person's being. It's coming from something that you've been programmed from in your past.
Okay. All right. Very good advice. Absolutely. I mean, I've even noticed we have the tendency to carry on whatever experiences are, and almost in such a way where even if that situation isn't there, we create it as a way to kind of relive the trauma.
Yep.
I don't know, maybe are we doing it so that we get it right the next time, or are we doing it because we're just so comfortable it's all we know?
It's many of those. It's what you know, and it's what you don't know. You don't know how to shift the pattern. Right?
Uh-huh.
So it's what you know, it's what you're comfortable with, and you also get something out of being the victim of attracting the same person, because then you get to share your story over and over to all your friends, and then they buy into it, and you feel good because they bought into it, right? But that is a quality of just being human. That's a characteristic of being human, man or woman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, I love that. I mean, really good advice here. Now, you also talk about the most commonly overlooked possessions when we're kind of doing our inventory here. What can we most commonly overlook when we're taking the steps to create our soulmate now?
Well, I think that music, the CDs that you have in your CD or records or iPod, the music you're listening to is overlooked, because a lot of times it'll share the songs you're listening to are about love you could never get to,
the ones that make us cry.
Yeah, the ones that make you cry, that have a emotional charge behind it. I remember one time when I was in, it was either grade school or 7th or 8th grade, where I was at this party, and there were so many cute girls there, and I didn't end up getting to hang out with any of them. Like, it was just kind of like everybody else was all kissing. They're kissing in the corner, or they're sitting holding hands, or they're talking outside, and I felt like I was completely left behind. And then all of a sudden, I'm all out of love, I'm so lost without you, from Air Supply comes on. So that becomes my heartbreak song. And see, you've got yours, people listening have theirs.
I think that triggers everyone, Frank.
Yeah. Well, if you can distinguish the songs that are you're locked into and set them free, get rid of them. Don't listen to them anymore. Or, distinguish what it was, what's holding you back in that song. Like, I'll never get the right woman, or I'll never get the right guy, or I had him but I lost him.
Oh, wow. Very good, Frank. I'm so sorry. It is that time again, though. We're going to be right back after this short break. Stay tuned. Be right SoulMate Guy coming up after this short break. Truth Brigade Radio. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Last segment with our special guest tonight, Frank Polancic, the SoulMate Guy. TheSoulMateGuy.com is the website. And wow, we're all going through the text chat, Frank, here, listing all of the music we have to get rid of and quit listening to. So there goes my music collection. All right. Let me ask you this, though. There was a question in the text chat. Let me scroll up here. It says, do soulmates have distance barriers?
Do soulmates have distance barriers? You know, I don't know. I'm not sure what context they're asking that. If I would say physical distance, I would say no, because if you're moving, if you want to see, people will attract. I don't have enough to answer that question. I don't have enough to go on to
enough
answer that
information.
Question.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm assuming it's physical distance, like you. I think it was along the lines that you were talking about.
Well, let me just say this: is that sometimes people will say, "Oh, I attracted my soulmate, but they're in Texas." Mm-hmm. Well, if you're committed to being with them and they're committed to being with you, then you'll figure out a way to make your lives work together. That's all I can say. Is that that's sometimes people will create. Oh, well, I just can't. He lives in Texas though, and they get so caught up in the drama of them living in Texas that they forget that there's actually a solution to actually come together and focus on the solution to getting together,
Okay, so if a soulmate is really what you want, then you're going to find a way, Texas to New York or India,
you're going to find a way.
Wherever.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. I'll say this, that even in my relationship with my wife, we create win-wins in our relationship. I don't believe in compromise in our relationship. We create win-wins, a win for me and a win for me, and a win for her and a win for her and a win for us is amazing. So you can create a win-win where you both live in the same place. It's completely doable.
Okay. All right. We just have a few short minutes left. So let me ask you this. You speak, you do telecourses, personal coaching and such. So can you tell us how we can take advantage of that and what it would entail?
Yeah, there's, you can look at the website, thesoulmateguy.com. And, I offer a lot of different things. I offer one-on-one coaching. I offer group coaching, and I offer teleworkshops, and it's all done by the telephone. So if you want to call me, you can call me at 312-286-4706 to set something up or to inquire more into that. And what I do is I have what I call the complete soulmate system that you can get, and it's the Why Wait Create Your Soulmate Now book. It's the Create Your Soulmate Now Energy Affirmations compact disc, which is basically an affirmation CD that when you're feeling bad about yourself will instantly transform how you're feeling. It'll take you from feeling bad to feeling good. It works better on your brain than you can. And then I have an audio course, a 30-day audio course that I can take you through. It's 5 sessions, okay, and it's 3 CDs. And then I also give you a workbook with that. And then I have a lot of the stuff we talked about tonight, something called Jumpstart Your Love Life Fast, Feng Shui for Romance and Attracting a Soulmate. That's included. That's like a bonus. The Soulmate Resume, which is what we talked a little bit about tonight. Not really. We didn't talk much about it, but it's all about the law of attraction. It's called A Quick Start Guide to Finding a Soulmate Using Law of Attraction, which we were about to talk about, but that's in the second part of the book. The law of attraction is how you begin to look at what you're getting in a soulmate, the things that you don't want, and then you begin to focus on what you do want, okay? And then I have an online dating CD, and it's a ladies-only online dating CD, how to choose a website that gets you your soulmate. Now, there are so many online dating websites out there. There's 1,300 that I know of, 1,300. And the biggest ones are probably not the ones that are going to allow you to attract your soulmate. And I go through the niche dating sites that will actually help you attract your soulmate. And then in this package you get my soulmate tips. I usually send out quite a few soulmate tips over the course of a year. Usually it's anywhere from 1 to 3 a week, and it just helps you be inspired and stay on track of attracting the right person versus the wrong person. And that's at my website as well. So I encourage you to get that package because it's pretty comprehensive. And if you need the coaching, if you want the coaching or you want to take a workshop, then just call me or sign up for one on the when you get them through my tips or on the website. But I believe that package is so comprehensive that you can do it on your own and use my plan. Don't use your plan, because if you use your plan, it's going to keep getting you what you got.
Well,
use the plan I created. I'm very specific about that. I just invite you to abandon the strategies that you're currently using and allow me. You've already put the time in. I've put the time and the effort into doing this, so just use my plan. So that's what I would say is, and you can get that at the website, thesoulmateguy.com. And if you're really, really stuck, call me. Don't waste an opportunity. If I can't get to you right away, I'll call you back and we'll talk and we'll find out what's going on with you so you can have a breakthrough. I never knew that me having the love of my life, walking the talk, and, I am constantly inspired about talking about people attracting their soulmate, and more importantly, people actually taking action. I mean, here's the thing you want to get. After you've listened to this whole interview tonight, if you, the listener, has not taken action, don't take action on what we talked about tonight, forget it. You wasted your time tonight. You want to take action on everything as much as you can on what you learned tonight and get going, because that's where the magic happens. It happens in action. It's not in the thinking aspect of it, because if you want to keep thinking about a soulmate, that's what you'll get is more thinking about it. Thinking causes more thinking. Action causes results.
Absolutely, Frank. Very well said. I am so sorry we are out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us tonight. Been such a delight. Once again, thesoulmateguy.com. Check it out. And thank you all for joining us here tonight. Abundant blessings and love